Roleplay Cafe, it's Dill here. Thought I'd get on for a little bit and do a little recap and reflection, secondary recap and reflection, as this wasn't a game that I ran, but a game that Jorian ran. He has a Monday night 5e group. It's generally 10 people, up to 10 people are there. And he had prepped and planned for this game. And I guess on the eve of it being Thanksgiving, pretty much only 3 people showed up. So later on, he's telling me about it. He said they sat there for a little bit and said, well, I can't run according to the complement of people we have. So bounced around several ideas, and he finally landed on the fact. He pulled up Dark Age of Man PDF in his phone and relayed the PDF to the other players, the other 3 players. So they agreed. He said, no, a couple of minutes it took for him to describe, how to play. They built their characters. He said they conceptualized them according to the setting. I can only remember 2 right off right now, which one of them was more of a paganistic druid type, and the other was more of a street urchin, a younger player. It was in Dredgetown proper. Nevertheless, he played. I asked him if he rolled up seeds. He said, no, I pulled one from the back of the book, and it happened to be the Talbot Hound. I said, okay. Well, I mean, what happened? He said, at the start, the farmer has the girl that has been bitten. She's sick, presumably with rabies and whatnot. Well, the first thing he rolled seed-wise on that chart was sin eaters. So some sin eaters come along, when the farmer brings the girl into town, and all the hubbub happens as people gather around, including the PCs. They sin eaters are amongst the throng of people, and push toward having her. They see her as on the brink of death and want to have her sins, basically she needs to be purged of her sins before she expires. So they're pushing toward that. He said it's a point that the street urchin broke off as all that discussion was happening, and happens to overhear some guards with Lord Washburn talking about, because the second seed he rolled was I think an ill omen, and he describes it as like, it was crows about, and they had seen this and they suspected something was going down. Well, anyway, that urchin goes back to the group and lets them know what she eavesdropped on, and he or she, I can't remember exactly the sex, but this neither here nor there. Anyway, which the pagan immediately picked up on, as far as the crows and whatnot, with it being paganistic or representation of Odin or whatever. And he sees it as an ill omen, and applies it to the situation at hand with the girl. Anyway, they take off. The sin eaters take the girl and want to purge her to the church and do the last rites or what have you. Start that process. They went off to try to catch Lord Washburn, and the druid approaches him about wanting to find the Talbot Hound to basically make an elixir to help cure this girl. Earlier he said he did roll a spirit roll that helped heal up her wounds, but she was still infected. So that's what they was trying to do, was find this Talbot hound. Said the player wanted to find the Talbot hound. Had a thing in mind to get the tongue. I don't think he was saying this outwardly, and make some kind of, with the saliva, and make some kind of salve or elixir to cure the girl, which was to be yet determined. And of course, Dorian was like, okay, well, that's what y'all are going after. Anyway, Lord Washburn agrees that they can find this hound that had, molested or troubled the girl. And, but he allows them to take a guard with them, a city guard, to kind of monitor and make sure that they, whether or not they stay within the confines of the local area, right? But obviously he trusts his druid in some capacity to do that. Anyway, Jorian said as they headed out into the forest, the next thing he rolled was a haunt. And he said while he was chewing on that, how was he going to introduce the haunt? Then it appeared to him whenever they found the hound. See, the hound stood there, stock still in the middle of the road. They tried to loose an arrow, which missed, and the hound just stood there, and the guard picked up and tried to go attack it. Well, the hound isn't now rabid. It's actually possessed. That was what the deal was. So when the guard attacks, tries to take a swipe at the hound, fails. The hound grasps his sword arm at the wrist and starts to tear at it, and literally tears it off after the struggle. And when it does, the stump is all bloody. They see a black malignant vapor go out of the hound's mouth up into the stump, and basically it possesses the guard in this transaction through them wrestling about in mortal combat. So the hound runs off as it gains its faculties back and shakes his head and runs off confused. Then they have to face this guard. It takes all three of them. They do not want to kill the guard, as he is Lord Washburn's man, which they had to be. They obviously wasn't going murder hobo, so they were a little bit cognitively aware that their actions would have ramifications, which was good to see. Anyway, they do eventually subdue him with George at the back over the back of the head. One of them was able to hit him and knock him out. They tied him to the horse that he had ridden on and go back to the village. Well, when they get there, they go back to the church, and Washburn is at the church right now, and they're over the girl. They explained to a certain extent what had happened. The hound ran off and said that the guard was now confined, but they had determined what ailed the girl. He said that the druid was trying to be crafty to a certain extent, and one of the just basic elixirs that he produced that, as he said he would produce something to help heal the girl. He had that. He discovered what it was, so he was going to give it to the girl to bring her about. So in effect, because he knew that the helm, wasn't a situation of being rabid, that the girl would come about afterwards with some basic elixir to kind of help calm her fever or do whatever, that it would appear that he had healed her from maybe a possession or somewhat, right? So Anyway, he was trying to bid that, and obviously, whether the player was aware of it or not, that would have garnered him when he gave it to the girl, a repute point, even though it was a contrivance that he was trying to make, and the guard was still passed out on the horse. George said that's where they closed it, so it's a bit unresolved. But he did give it to the girl, and the girl is seemingly going to be all right. So, and like I said, this is secondhand, and I was told this yesterday, so I'm trying to recall everything. He said they kept going on about it. He used the word rad, that it was easily for them to get into character. He said the player who played the street urchin mentioned that they liked the way that you developed your character in game, or your character was informed in game by the fact that whenever he was asking questions of the priest or whatever, he did 2 or 3 lines of questioning, and the priest, or he said after a certain point of time, they entertained him, but they basically just dismissed him after that, which led him into, because he's a bit of a thief, into the fact that that's how his character would interact with the world, almost being like almost an annoying questioner, a youth that still had a lot to learn that people would kind of dismiss, and therefore that's when he would take opportunities to lift an item or pocket something or whatnot. So that's what he meant by, through play, it informed him of how his character interacted in the live world as it was transpiring. George said they may continue it. He said if they pick up, but they did enjoy it. They did enjoy it. So that was dynamic and alive, and they were able to express themselves as characters in this world. And they conceived of their own characters in the setting. They were given the setting description and place themselves into what they would like to play without restriction. And I mean, obviously, restrictions of the setting and the time period and whatnot, and the class structure and everything like that. It goes without saying. I'm just saying there's no age restriction. You have to start at 18, or you have to do this, or you have to do that. They played the kind of person that they would like to play in this setting, and see if they could survive. And so I thought it was interesting what he said about the realization that he could make sense of his character in the world as it transpired. So anyway, that's it. I thought it was really interesting. Just wanted to share that. It was good. It was a positive response, and that was the first time that just outwardly, some people who hadn't had any kind of contact with the game before was able to sit down, and Jorian presented them the world on the spur of the moment, and they played and they were engaged. I think on that level, that's a good response. So I'm encouraged about the response I get running the games at Scarab in January. Anyway, y'all take care, and I'll let you go for now. All right.